As part of New York Tech Week, I joined the MIT Club in Manhattan for an event focused on AI, innovation, and the evolving role of tech in society. I was joined on stage by SandboxAQ, a Google spinout that combines AI Large Quantitative Models and deep expertise in physics, biology, and chemistry. The company works on a wide range of hard problems, like the prototyping of new materials and chemicals for manufacturing, and how cybersecurity might work in the future with post-quantum cryptography. Andrew McLaughlin is the company's chief operating officer, and we sat down to chat after he made the case to the room that the future of AI might not be large language models, but quantitative. I'm Jennifer Strong, and this is Shift.
Now here on the steering column is a device called Auto Cruise. You simply set the speed you want.
Self-driving robo-taxis are already on the road in 2 U.S. cities.
As the disc rotates, a mirror reflects the light in the way that depends on how the signal was recorded.
This is the 100 terabyte I present to you Electro, the Moto Man.
Ladies and gentlemen,
I would say that one of my greatest skills is my ability to interact with humans.
This episode was taped in front of a live audience in New York City.
This season on IRL, I'm getting personal with AI. We don't always see AI, but it's everywhere. Could it even be in my brain one day?
We need to really make sure that there's strong data privacy, or else it's really just letting someone have a full record of everything you've ever wanted to say or write.
It's AI and Us. This season on IRL, an original podcast from Mozilla with PRX.
Harness the power of AI agents at scale, without vendor limitations. The agency, spelled AGNTCY, is the open-source collective building the Internet of Agents to enable seamless agent-to-agent collaboration. Explore use cases on agency.org now. That's agntcy.org.
From Zuckerman Spader. For 5 decades, Zuckerman Spader has been a leading litigation firm trusted by in-house and outside counsel, businesses, and individuals. With offices in Washington, Baltimore, New York, and Tampa, Zuckerman Spader serves clients throughout the country and around the world in high-stakes disputes, enforcement matters, investigations, and at trial. When the lawyer you choose matters most. Online at Zuckerman.com.
So thank you for being the second person in a few days to point out to me that we have done something we've never before done in history, which is create computers that are bad at math.
It took a lot of work.
A lot of work. You know, I don't get envious of people's jobs too often because I think I have the best job in the world. I get to go see labs everywhere on every topic, you know, but you have a pretty cool job.
It is a pretty cool job.
You get to work on everything.
Yeah, I'm putting in a lot of hours though. A lot more than I'm used to.
Funny how that works.
Yeah.
How did you get into this work? Like, what was the thing that drew you into working on so many different things at once?
I mean, there's a long and painful version to that, but the short answer is that what I've always been interested in is like something that I've never done before, and so this is definitely that. I was doing kind of internet networking in the early years. I helped to launch something called ICANN, which is like the technical coordinating organization for the internet. Went to Google, was working on a bunch of policy issues in the White House, and I've been trying to learn how to build startups for about the last 10 years. I got to this specific company in part because our board chairman is Eric Schmidt, who was the CEO of Google when I was working there. That was part of the connection. Part of it is that the CEO is like a New Yorker and an old friend of mine. And I've been an advisor to the company since it spun out of Google about 3 years ago. And it reached a scale last summer that it needed a COO. And so that's me.
So it's not exactly the answer I thought I was going to get, which is boundless curiosity. But anyway.
I wish.
All right. I want to go back to talking about applications, which is really what you were starting to dive in there. And to kind of also put a point on how much of this, when I was in Recursion's labs in Salt Lake City a couple of weeks ago, one of the big drug discovery companies using AI, how much today is quantitative and we just think of it as, oh, it's AI drug discovery, and how much of this is coming? Like, we're not quite there yet.
Actually, like a lot of what's being applied in science right now is not quantitative AI as we understand it. The right way to think about quantitative AI, I guess, is that it's not like a thing. We use the term large quantitative model because that is one thing that we do, is we train models in a particular way, kind of anchored in equations using numerical data that's derived from those equations. But a lot of the AI that you see is like kludged LLMs that are, where we've like applied guardrails and set up little subroutines and tried to come up with math modules that will like divert the math problems and do it in a classical way and so forth. But our experience is that those things don't actually work all that well. And so, you can do amazing things with a language model, like analyze a vast amount of scientific literature and try to pull insights out of it. Mm-hmm. But like if the cure to cancer was in the literature, we would know it. And what we need AI to be able to do is to do structured inference that goes beyond what we've learned how to do. So anyway, that's what we're trying to do. It is very much early days. And the toolbox of techniques that we're using is very much in motion, very much under development.
Yeah. But how do we... I don't know how we move from this moment to the moment that you're imagining.
Well, look, there are two. Many schools of thought, but there are two broad schools of thought about large language model evolution. One is that we've basically hit the ceiling, mm-hmm. right? That like we've basically like extracted the value that a transformer-based neural net kind of architecture, or anyway, the other analogous approaches to large language models, we hit the limits of what they can do. We've got all the data that is publicly available. Mm-hmm. It's basically like cooked at this point. And hallucinations is fundamental to the architecture of it because it's a predictive probabilistic outcome based on training data. And the training data includes Reddit. So it's going to have stuff that's wrong. Like, that's just the reality. So the other school of thought says, like, no, actually, like, we are on a path. The architecture has not reached its natural limits. And look at how much these models are improving. We've added, if you played around with the O3 model of ChatGPT, mm-hmm. it is a series of steps that they call reasoning. But to me, it's not reasoning. It's like structured, memorized data regurgitation. And the structure is cool. It can like do lots of things, but it is not reasoning. It is not inference. And, those examples of like what happens is the person alive at noon, unless there's some Reddit article that worked through that problem and the model trained on and has that specific answer, it's not going to be able to give you the right answer.
Right. So how do we move to this quantitative world?
Well, so the good news is there are tons of people, labs at universities, including MIT, researchers like Jan LeCun at Meta, that are working on new architectures and new approaches. And some of what they're doing is basically ditching the transformer, the language-based stuff, and going back to first principles in machine learning. We use neural nets. I mean, to be clear, the neural net architecture is like very powerful for unstructured data, just to be able to like shove it into a training process and have a model like figure out the causation, figure out the correlations, and so forth. That's amazing, very powerful. Anyway, I don't know how to answer the question other than to say, like, we're trying something and kind of like collection of some things and other people are trying other things. For sure, there are many, many AI architectural models yet to be discovered and worked on. It's not like we've hit some kind of dead end.
We haven't discovered everything forever. So one thing that I think could be helpful for me and maybe for others here, do you have a working definition for this, like that you refer to, or is it still too soon for that?
For quantitative AI? Mm-hmm. Yeah, so our working definition is that it is machine learning anchored in equations and with a toolbox of methodologies to try to generate a picture of the world and run simulations within that picture of the world. Mm-hmm. So, that's our definition. Like, that is what quantitative AI is.
And then going back to applications and use cases, pick one. What's one that you can help us maybe wrap our heads around this a bit more by unpacking?
Yeah, so I mean, just to maybe pick a high level one. So we're working on neurodegenerative conditions, and this is like Alzheimer's and Parkinson's and so forth. And so the mechanism to kind of like oversimplify it a little bit is that there are proteins that are supposed to fold in a certain way, and proteins can get misfolded. And so misfolded proteins, which are called prions, can do bad things to your body. One version of that is that they can persuade other similar proteins in your body to misfold. And then you can get a lot of misfolded proteins, and maybe these can build up into like a plaque on the brain, let's say. So, I mean, anybody here who's like an expert in this area will be throwing up right now, but that's like a highly crude, like definite description of what happens. So anyway, what you want to do is you want to design a compound that will bind with the protein, and either because of the new shape of that entity, the protein plus the compound, or the way that that compound will alter the shape of the protein itself, you can then disrupt it from having its bad effect. So anyway, that's crudely it, right? Like one of the projects we worked on in a different context was a misfolded protein that's associated with prostate cancer. And so if you're worried about what's going to happen to this protein when it gets through the cell membrane and into the nucleus, you want to stop it from getting through the cell membrane. And one way that you can do that is attach a compound to it that makes it too large to get through the cell membrane. Again, crudely, don't throw up on me exactly. But so that process of trying to discover what is the compound that will dock with the prion, bind with it, stay bound, that is the essence of drug discovery. You've got a target. You want to design a compound that will attach to it and either stop it from doing a bad thing or provoke it to do a good thing. Those are two viable answers. And so that's what we're doing. And what's cool about this technology is that by doing a simulation at the subatomic level, you can get a full like 3D picture of the pocket in the protein. So as opposed to like, the two-dimensional drawing, the way that we render, chemistry, you can actually like move that into a three-dimensional world, and you can understand like what are these protons going to do? What are the strong and weak forces that are going to act on this electron? What energy state does it need to be in? Is it likely to be in? Anyway, you can do all of that we use different modules. And so basically you like assemble the modules that are going to help you understand the protein, its shape. We use AlphaFold, the DeepMind product for sure. We developed a process to understand co-folding, which says like, okay, what it's supposed to look like. And then when you attach the compound, actually the shape of the protein will be different. So we need to understand that. And then you need to understand, these usual issues like absorption. Is the drug going to be absorbed by your body? Metabolism. What's the liver going to do to it when it encounters it? Excretion. Is your body going to be able to get rid of it in the right way? Toxicity. These are like the sort of like critical things. And you can build a module for each one of those, or a set of modules that allow you to say, here's the protein that we're going after. Here's the compound that we think is the optimal shape to bind in the right way. And then you try to figure out, what are the secondary effects on the body? Can we synthesize it? All the things that you need to understand if it's really going to be a commercially viable drug that can be produced.
Harness the power of AI agents at scale without vendor limitations. As an open source collective, the agency, spelled AGNTCY, is building the Internet of Agents to enable seamless agent-to-agent collaboration. For business leaders, this means faster innovation and scalable solutions tailored to the multi-agent software your enterprise is creating. Visit agency.org to explore use cases now. That's agntcy.org. You don't need me to tell you how hard it is to run a business in this climate of constant change and unpredictability. Thankfully, Constant Contact's award-winning marketing platform is here to make marketing easier and more effective for small businesses like ours. The best part, you don't need to know anything about marketing. With their all-in-one platform, you can create and manage attention-grabbing campaigns in just a few clicks. Email, text, social media, events, landing pages, you name it, it's all in one place. So no more juggling dozens of different tools. You also get automated sending, real-time reporting, and tools that actually help drive sales. So you're not just marketing your business, you're growing it. Pricing is transparent and based on the size of your list, so you're only paying for what you need. That's why over 500,000 small businesses trust Constant Contact to stay connected, top of mind, and ahead of the competition. Get a free 30-day trial when you go to ConstantContact.com. Try Constant Contact free for 30 days at ConstantContact.com. ConstantContact.com.
Now, you teased at quantum sensing a bit and also at encryption. Either of those, do you want to break down a bit more for us?
I mean, the quantum sensors are just like these like super sensitive magnetometers, and we've been looking at different use cases. And the two that seem powerful are like navigation, crustal magnetic field compared to what you're sensing. That's like a way to see where you are. And looking at the body's magnetic field. So anyway, those are the two that we're doing. The quantitative AI there is a denoiser of a messy, hypersensitive sensor. But anyway, we're getting like good results out of it. Our medical device is just up at Mount Sinai, Mayo Clinic, UCSF. We're like getting patient data and like moving it down the road towards eventual, we hope, FDA approval. And then the cybersecurity one is like quantitative AI applied to like what's happening in a network. There, we ended up working on that kind of sideways because we started off being really obsessed with quantum decryption. And we had a team of cryptographers that were like really good at that came out of Google and joined us when we spun out. And the cryptographers were basically saying like, this is a real problem. Like quantum computers are coming. And one of the things they're really good at is factoring large numbers. And that means they're going to be able to like break the standard encryption that we use. And so we should get ready. Anyway, what we've built on top of that is kind of like cryptography management that uses quantitative AI to make judgments about what's happening on your network and kind of like protect it in real time. It's a little bit different from the other ones, which are much more core science products. But anyway, we're trying to like attack the market in different directions and build a good business off of hopefully each of these.
Sure, and different from what we usually hear about with just building more quantum-resistant algorithms.
Yeah, and they're standardized now, right? Like the NIST standards are out there. And the big thing is like we know that China, I mean, not to be too geopolitical about this, but we know that the Chinese are running a Manhattan Project scale effort to mature quantum computing across, at least 7 or 8 different pathways. And they're not going to issue a press release when they've started to like decrypt our data at scale. Like they're not going to tell us. So we need to get ready for it. It's a little bit like Y2K when you don't know what the date is, right? Like it's coming, and I don't think anybody who's serious thinks that it's not going to happen. The only question is it like 2 years, 5 years, 10 years? Anyway, at some point, adversaries are going to be able to decrypt everything that's encrypted, which is like everything that matters, on the internet. So it's a thing that we need to get ahead of and we need to like take seriously, just like Y2K. Y2K was a massive success, by the way. Like people make fun of it now. Like, wasn't that cute? But Y2K was a total non-event because we actually took it super seriously and like planned years ahead of time and invested tons of money and like took it. And we need to do that now. But as humans, we are so bad at saying like, well, it's going to happen at some point. So like, let's do it now. We're like,
do the 900 other things that feel more pressing. Absolutely. Is there anything else worth saying about the relationship between how you see quantitative AI and quantum computing coming together?
The way to the whole sort of thesis of my company is like, do what you would love to do on a quantum computer today on GPUs. That's like what we're doing. So if quantum computing gets mature and, the qubit becomes stable in some platformy kind of way, and I believe that's going to happen, then we'll throw a huge party because my compute costs will go way down, my AWS bill will plummet, and we'll run all of this stuff on quantum computers. But until then, the kind of like the name of the game is to do quantum math, to do quantum physics on GPU platforms in a simulated environment where you can get like now, thanks to these insanely impressive, generations of NVIDIA chips, you can do like 100 million simulations, which we do sometimes in a reasonable period of time, like in a week or two. And that allows you to see what's going to happen in the extremely complex, thing that is the human body. I mean, I will say one thing, which is, I don't think I'm saying this too strongly, but let me try it out. And then if anybody in the audience wants to shoot at it, go for it. But I think we don't need any more conceptual breakthroughs in order to personalize medicine, meaning understand an individual's genetic makeup and to know exactly the right compound. Like we should be able to get there. There's a level of complexity, an amount of compute that is intimidating right now, to really like simulate every cell in the body and like all the 20,000 proteins that are actively, keeping you alive and keeping your brain going and so forth. That is really complicated. I mean, there's so much work to be done to make that happen. But conceptually, we've now gotten to a point where we know how to do that. If we focus in on a given cell, we can figure out how it works. If we focus in on a given molecule, we can figure out how it's going to interact with a given compound. And so the kind of like net of all of this is like, your mission is to stay alive for like 10 years. Like 10, maybe 15, but like stay alive because a whole bunch of really, really powerful therapeutics are coming our way if we can just like be around to see them. That's my closing comment.
This episode was produced by me and Emma Cillekens and mixed by Garret Lang, with original music from him and Jacob Gorski. Thanks for listening. I'm Jennifer Strong. AI agent collaboration isn't all that easy for enterprises. As an open source collective, the agency, spelled AGNTCY, is building the Internet of Agents, a shared collaboration layer where AI agents can discover, communicate, and collaborate. To learn from AI innovators such as Cisco, Crew AI, LangChain, and MongoDB, visit agency.org and explore use cases now. That's agntcy.org.